after my best friend was diagnosed with cancer. She ran away from home and later took her own life. She left behind only a suicide note and a pair of 80-year-old twins. A boy and a girl. You're the only person in the world I can turn to. I'm not asking you to adopt the child, just give him a couple of meals a day. I couldn't bear to see them suffer. So I took the brother and sister in. Over the past 20 years, my husband and I have worked together to buy cars and homes for our 2 children. As a result, my adopted daughter went straight to the police station and accused my husband of being a scumbag with a heart of stone. My late best friend also suddenly came forward to identify him. I asked her why she did that. Her best friend was heartbroken. I thought of you as my best friend. But I never imagined you adopted a child just to take care of your husband. My husband's reputation was ruined, and he ended up behind bars. I traveled far and wide just to seek justice. But my adopted son had me forcibly committed to a mental hospital, where I died in despair. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back on the day my best friend was diagnosed with cancer. Main text. Nyen nyen. I have pancreatic cancer. It's in the advanced stages. The doctor said I don't have much time left. Looking at Su Wenwen, who was crying pitifully right in front of me, I clenched my fists. In my past life, I was completely taken in by her act. I spent my entire fortune on her medical treatment and took in her children, only to end up with my family destroyed and my life ruined. I lowered my eyes to hide the hatred in my gaze and put on a look of shock and sympathy. How could this happen? How did it suddenly? Seeing that I had taken the bait, Su Wenwen began to cry even harder. I don't dare tell the children Thierry's still so young. What on earth are we going to do? Nyen nyen. You're the only person in this world I can trust. She grabbed my hand, her palm was all sweaty, and said, I'm not asking you to adopt them. Just give them a few meals here and there as long as they don't starve to death. I gently patted her on the back and offered some insincere comfort. Don't panic. Let's figure this out together. I knew you wouldn't say no to me. I managed a smile. Just focus on getting better. Your relatives will help take care of the child in the future. I snorted inwardly. There was no way I was going to help. Su Wenwen clutched my hand tightly, tears streaming down her face, her voice trembling. Nyen nyen. Do you have any idea how hard these past years have been for me? Back then, I got pregnant before we were married. I was overjoyed, thinking I'd finally be able to start a family with the baby's father. But as soon as he found out I was pregnant, he vanished without a trace. I gritted my teeth and gave birth to the child on my own, thinking that no matter how hard life got, as long as I had my child, I'd have something to look forward to. She took a deep breath and broke down in tears. I have no parents, and those so-called relatives, I don't even see them once a year. They're stranger to me than a complete stranger. All these years, if it weren't for you, my childhood friend, I really don't know how I would have made it through. Now that I've gotten this illness again, I'm not afraid of dying, but I'm worried about my children. They're still so young, how will they manage without a mother? As she spoke, her knees suddenly gave way, and she knelt before me, clinging to my legs and crying out, I beg you, for the sake of our long-standing friendship, please help my child. Su Wenwen's words were heart-wrenching and full of sorrow. But I knew full well that this was nothing more than a ploy on her part. With a look of just the right amount of embarrassment on my face, I gently helped her up and said helplessly, I never said I wouldn't take care of your child. Get up already. I paused, watching her eyes grow increasingly anxious, then continued, but don't worry, given how long we've known each other, I certainly won't abandon the children. I'll provide as much financial support as I can and look after them on a daily basis. I'll make sure they have everything they need and that they can always come to me if they face any difficulties. As soon as Su Wenwen heard this, a look of reluctance flashed across her face. She wanted to try persuading him again, but the words died on her lips. She opened her mouth, but in the end all she said was, I know you mean well, but I still feel uneasy about it. After all, the child is closest to you, and I'm just afraid that. I patted her hand, my tone firm. Don't worry, once I've promised, I'll definitely follow through. Right now, the most important thing is for you to focus on getting better. Don't worry about anything else. Seeing how firm I was, Su Wenwen knew she couldn't change my mind anytime soon, so she reluctantly got up, but not before giving me a parting reminder. Nian Nian, it's all up to you now. As your mother, I've truly run out of options. I smiled and nodded, watching her walk away, a cold smile playing on my lips. This battle had only just begun. After Su Wenwen left, I sat motionless on the couch. My husband came home early from work, and the moment he saw me, the emotions he had been holding back for so long finally broke through, and he broke down in tears. Honey, I thought I'd never see you again, that I'd never be able to live with you again. I gently patted his back, and tears welled up in my eyes. He was reborn, too, the next day. We discussed how to handle everything that lay ahead. Just as they were talking, the doorbell suddenly rang. I got up to open the door and saw Su Wenwen standing there with a beaming smile, carrying bags of gifts, with her 2 children, her set of twins following behind her. Nian Nian, I've come to see you. Her voice was still gentle, but I could hear the insincerity in it. I watched her coldly, sneering inwardly, but kept a straight face as I stepped aside to let them in. Come on in, didn't be so formal. My tone was flat, devoid of the passion I had in my previous life. Su Wenwen walked into the living room, set the gifts aside, and took the 2 children by the hand, saying, "Kids, say auntie and uncle." The 2 children obediently called out, their voices timid. As my husband walked out of the kitchen and saw the 2 children and Su Wenwen, a fleeting look of disgust flashed across his face, but he quickly regained his composure. Why are you here? Miss Su, have a seat. What brings you here? My husband's tone was blunt, with not a trace of small talk. Su Wenwen seemed oblivious to our coldness. She squeezed out a few tears and began to sob. My health has been getting worse lately, and I'm really worried about these 2 kids. I know you're good people, could you please? Su Wenwen went on and on about her hardships, hinting in her words that she hoped we would adopt a child. My husband and I exchanged a glance and saw the sarcasm in each other's eyes. But we continued to listen patiently, nodding in agreement from time to time. I knew you wouldn't abandon me. You saved my life. If you could adopt the child, I could die in peace. Su Wenwen took my hand, tears welling up in her eyes, with tears welling up in my eyes and a look of deep empathy on my face. I took her hand and said, "Don't be so down. Medical science has come a long way. New treatments and medications are being developed every day. You're so young. I'm sure a miracle will happen." I got up to get the car keys. I happen to know a few oncologists. I'll go with you to the hospital today for a thorough checkup. There might be a new glimmer of hope. Su Wenwen's expression instantly turned awkward. She shifted her gaze and instinctively took a step back. Oh, there's no need to go to all that trouble. I've already had it checked several times at the hospital. I feigned confusion and said with a concerned look, "It's better to be safe than sorry, and who knows? Maybe there are more advanced testing methods now that could lead to better treatment options." Don't make excuses. The kids surely want their mom to get better, right? As I spoke, I smiled at the 2 children hiding behind her. Before Su Wenwen could say another word, I grabbed her arm and pulled her outside, half jokingly, half forcefully. Come on, the car's right downstairs. We have to get this checkup done today." Su Wenwen's body tensed up instantly, and she struggled frantically for a moment. Her eyes darted around frantically. Then she suddenly slapped her forehead as if remembering something important. Oh no. I just remembered the teacher at my child's daycare just sent me a message saying my child left something important there. I have to take it over right away. She's really worried. I definitely can't make it to the hospital today. No sooner had the words left her mouth than she suddenly pulled away from my grasp, ignoring the fact that her sudden movement had startled the 2 children. She hurriedly bent down and grabbed the bag lying nearby. Without even putting on his shoes properly, he rushed frantically toward the door, leaving behind the words, "We'll talk about it next time." Next time. Then the door slammed shut, and the footsteps quickly faded away down the hallway. A few days after Su Wenwen fled in a hurry, a call came in from an unknown number. No sooner had I pressed the answer button than I heard an anxious voice on the other end of the line. "Is this Ms. Lin Yen?" "This is the Municipal Public Security Bureau. Su Wenwen has passed away unexpectedly. As her emergency contact, could you please come in to confirm this?" When we heard the news, my husband and I exchanged a glance and rushed to the scene. At that moment, the two children were brought in by the police. Tears streaked their faces, making them look pitiful. But my husband and I are no longer the soft-hearted people we were in our past lives. We clearly remember the trap they set for us together with Su Wenwen in our past life. Sure enough, while we were talking to the police, I noticed that the boy, Cece, gave the girl a discreet nod. The calculating look in his eyes was completely unlike what you'd expect from an 80-year-old. The police asked us about arrangements for the child. She seemed to have been prepared for this. She suddenly dropped to her knees in front of me and cried out, "Auntie, Mom's gone. You're all I have left. Please take me and my little sister in. We'll be very good." I watched him put on a show, sneering inwardly, but keeping a straight face. My husband walked over, helped him up, and said gently, "Don't ever say that. Sweetie, don't be afraid. Your grandparents and the rest of the family will never abandon you." He took a step forward, gripped the hem of my shirt tightly, and spoke in a tearful, pleading voice, "Auntie, please take us in. We don't have parents. And we don't have a home anymore. We're really pitiful. We'll work as hard as oxen or horse. We'll do any kind of work. Please." My little sister timidly poked her head out. "Auntie, I'll be a good girl and do exactly as you say." Seeing that I wasn't swayed, the little boy dropped to his knees in front of me with a thud, his eyes red-rimmed, his voice choked with tears. "Aunt Lin, have you forgotten? My mom saved your life. She risked her life to save you back then, and now that she's gone, we have no one to turn to. How can you bear to abandon us?" The little girl started crying too and clung tightly to my leg. "Auntie Lin, if you don't take us in, Mom won't rest in peace up in heaven. Aunt Lin, I remember Mom always talking about you. She said you were the person she cared about most. She developed a chronic illness trying to save you. Now that she's gone, you're all we have left. How can you stand by and watch the child of the person who saved your life end up on the streets?" People gathered around, staring at the two children and beginning to whisper among themselves, "These two children have lost their parents. How on earth will they get by from now on?" Exactly. I heard the child's parents asked her to take care of him on their deathbed. How could she possibly turn her back on him? Her mother treated you like family. Now that she's passed away, she trusted you enough to entrust her two children to your care. How could you be so heartless? Their words washed over me like a tidal wave, leaving me breathless. I pretended to place my hand on my slightly rounded belly, took a deep breath, and struggled to speak. "I'm sorry, but I really can't take you in, with the baby I'm carrying. I've got my hands full just taking care of myself." The little boy clearly froze for a moment. Someone said earnestly, "Raising one child is the same as raising two. You might as well go all the way and see it through to the end. These two children will surely be eternally grateful to you." "That's right, young lady. If you raise them well now, you'll be blessed with great fortune in the future. Don't be so heartless. The child's mother specifically asked you to help, and I didn't expect you to be so evasive." Hearing the whispers around me, a wave of resentment washed over me. My eyes welled up with tears, and I raised my voice to retort. "You're all saying I'm heartless, that I don't care about these two kids. But what about you? If you're so full of compassion, why don't you take them home and raise them yourselves?" My voice trembled slightly with excitement. My friend did ask me to look after them, but she never said anything about adopting them. I'm pregnant myself. There's just no way I can do it. I looked at the little boy, who was still clutching the hem of my shirt tightly. "Sweetie, it's not that I'm heartless. I just have my own difficulties. Kids, I can't take you home, but I'll definitely help you. Do you know of any orphanages? Or, I can help you find a warm place where there are lots of friends and people to take care of you." The little boy was taken aback. He didn't seem to expect me to answer that way. The girl sniffled quietly and stammered, "Auntie, I'm scared. We don't want to go to the orphanage." I fought back the nausea, gently stroked her head, and continued, "The staff at the orphanage are all very kind. They'll take care of you just like family. And if you ever run into any difficulties in the future, whether with your studies or in your daily life, feel free to contact me. Be sure to write down my phone number." After saying that, I took out a pen and paper from my bag and wrote down my contact information. The little boy, who had been clutching the hem of my shirt, slowly let go and pulled a crumpled letter out of his worn-out backpack. His hand trembled slightly, and his voice broke as he said, "Auntie, this is the letter my mother left behind." He unfolded it carefully. "My mom says you're the only good friend I'll ever have." I took the letter. The paper had yellowed, and the writing was somewhat smudged. My thoughts drifted involuntarily back to the past. Su Wenwen and I both come from the same remote mountain village, surrounded by mountains on all sides. A winding dirt road is the only way out. At that time, my parents went away to work to make a living, so I became a left-behind child and lived with my elderly grandparents. Su Wenwen lives right next door to me. I remember one summer when it rained cats and dogs, and the small river in our village swelled. I was playing by the river when I accidentally lost my footing and fell into the water. The rushing current swept me away in an instant, and fear and despair engulfed me, just when I thought I was going to die right there. It was Su Wenwen, who's a great swimmer, who pulled me out of the water. She saved my life. As an only child with no siblings, I've come to regard Su Wenwen as my best friend. I truly like her from the bottom of my heart, because her family favored sons over daughters. She dropped out of school at a young age and started working at 15. I got into college in a big city and reunited with her. Su Wenwen is very generous. Every month when she gets paid, she comes to pick me up at the school gate after class and takes me out to eat. After graduating from college, I followed a conventional career path in international trade and met my husband, who is from a big city. Su Wenwen had been working as a waitress for so many years. Perhaps seeing that I'd found a boyfriend with a decent background made her feel envious, so she quietly faded out of my life. Before long, she excitedly told me she was pregnant. It wasn't until later that I found out Su Wenwen had met a wealthy older man while working as a front desk clerk at a hotel. Unfortunately, he was a married man, a son-in-law who had moved into his wife's family's home and had no real intention of taking responsibility for her. Su Wenwen was utterly devastated. Unfortunately, after having this abortion, she would never be able to have children again, probably because she felt she'd lose face in front of me. She deliberately gave me the cold shoulder while she was pregnant. It wasn't until after giving birth that Su Wenwen returned to work. Before long, she got back in touch with me, claiming she had cancer. She then left home to take her own life, leaving me with 2 children and a suicide note. The 2 children were skin and bones, looking gaunt and emaciated, a sight that tugged at the adult's heartstrings. I cried my heart out. Su Wenwen's parents couldn't care less about her. Her relatives were all scrambling to distance themselves from her. There was no way they were going to raise her child for nothing. After going round and round in circles, I have no choice but to leave these kids in the care of my good friend. Of course I don't mind. I can certainly look after her child. But Su Wenwen's son, Cece, knelt down and kowtowed to me, begging me to adopt his little sister. I felt a pang of sympathy. I've always been a firm advocate of the child-free lifestyle and didn't want to endure the pain of childbirth. I decided to go all out and took the 2 kids home with me. I discussed it with my husband. I thought he might object, but to my surprise, he agreed right away. "You said Su Wenwen saved your life, so we can't just ignore the 2 children she left behind. If we send them somewhere else where they won't see you, you won't be able to rest easy. Since you don't want to have kids anyway, why don't we just adopt them?" I was overjoyed to see how well-behaved and sensible the 2 children were. They took good care of themselves right from the first day and didn't seem to require much attention. To get their 2 children into a better international school, My husband treated people to meals and gave them gifts. I haven't been sitting around either. My 2 children were severely malnourished. So I decided to become a nutritionist. I worked a 9-to-5 job while also putting a lot of thought into their 3 daily meals. They are enrolled in countless tutoring classes, all with the aim of raising them to become the pillars of the nation. Our adopted son's top academic performance has put our minds at ease. Our adopted daughter loves following celebrities and has decided to pursue a career in the arts. And we have no objections. We do our best to provide for them materially. If other kids have it, they have to have it too. Just like my husband, I cherish these 2 children dearly, having lived with them for so long. I've long since come to regard them as my own, until the 2 children grew up and started thinking about marriage. My husband and I didn't hesitate to buy a wedding home for our adopted son, and we provided the bride's family with everything they needed from jewelry and a dowry to a car and household furnishings, to make sure her adopted daughter didn't feel left out. She made sure she had everything her brother had. My husband said that if she gets married someday, she might not be able to hold her head high in her in-laws' home, so just for her dowry, he's already prepared a whole box of gold bars for her. It all seems perfect. The good times didn't last long. I never would have imagined that. Right after we successfully transferred the property and divided the assets, they would turn on us. The adopted daughter told everyone that her adoptive father was a beast worse than a pig or a dog. She tearfully recounted how she had been secretly subjected to mental torment and physical abuse all these years. The adopted son also came forward to testify. The adopted daughter posted on social media that she has been taking medication for depression. That rambling little essay has put my husband and me in the spotlight. The neighbors and friends who once had nothing but praise for us as a couple now look at us with nothing but suspicion and disgust. And Soo-won, best friend I once regarded as my savior and soulmate, teamed it up on the opposite side from us. She made her tearful accusations, looking so utterly heartbroken that anyone unaware of the situation would have thought we'd done something utterly unforgivable. I thought of you as my best friend, but I never imagined you adopted a child just to wait on your husband hand and foot. Her words cut straight to my heart like a sharp knife. Won, why did you do this? In all these years, what have your father and I ever done wrong to the children or to you? I confronted her, my voice trembling with anger, but Soo-won just cried. There wasn't a trace of remorse in her sobs. On the contrary, it seemed as though she were giving vent to some kind of twisted pleasure. Do you think I don't know what you're up to? You just want to use my child as free labor, as your personal property. Her words made no sense and were full of baseless accusations. The moment the police took my husband away, he glanced back at me, his eyes filled with resignation and trust. Honey, I know you'll get to the bottom of this and clear our names. His voice was firm, yet it made my heart ache even more. I started running around, searching for evidence, trying to clear my husband's name. Every night, I lie awake, my mind constantly replaying the little moments from all these years. I just can't understand how our sincere love could have led to such an outcome. However, my efforts seemed so feeble in the face of their carefully orchestrated plot. The adopted son joined their side as well. He was no longer the well-behaved, sensible child he used to be, but instead stared at me with a cold expression, as if I were his enemy. Auntie, you've gotten your money's worth after all these years of me calling you mom. Don't worry, I won't abandon you. I carefully selected this mental hospital, so you can live comfortably here from now on. His words left me utterly heartbroken. Everyone around me was avoiding me, and even my relatives and friends began to distance themselves from me, as if I were truly a terrible criminal. In the end, my adopted son had me forcibly committed to a psychiatric hospital on the grounds that I was mentally ill. Heaven has given me a chance to start over. I've gone back to the day my best friend was diagnosed with cancer. This time, I won't let them get their way. I looked up at those 2 little kids. They really are just like their mom when it comes to putting on a show. Auntie, we're not trying to freeload. This money is what my mother left behind for our living expenses. Please, just this once. Will you help us out when I grow up? I promise I'll take good care of you. The little girl nervously pulled out a passbook and insisted on putting it in my bag. I pretended to be heartbroken and quickly handed the passbook back to her. You poor thing. You really shouldn't give something like this to a stranger like me. I chew. Ickley asked the police officer to find a better orphanage for these two children. The police officers said they understood the situation. After all, I'm not the child's immediate family member. What right do they have to expect me to raise these two children on my own? As soon as the boy saw the police officer, he immediately called the other members of his family. His expression instantly turned panicked and angry. He quickly grabbed my hand. Auntie, I don't want to go to some orphanage. Please. Don't be so heartless. I sighed helplessly. Little one, I'm not a close relative, but I'll come visit you often from now on. Please take care of yourself. Just when I thought the matter was over, my friend's anxious voice came through the receiver. Hurry up and check on Lynette's full of people bashing you. My heart sank. I opened my social media app and was instantly overwhelmed by a flood of negative comments. A video showing the scene outside the funeral home that day has gone viral. The onlookers chimed in one after another. That woman took the children's money. Yet she didn't care about them at all, she just sent them straight to the orphanage. It's absolutely heartless. I heard she even manipulated someone into running away from home and attempting suicide, just to get her hands on the family fortune. That's so evil. Netizens have taken my words out of context and, based solely on this one-sided video, have concluded that I am a thoroughly wicked person. Seeing those malicious comments made me so angry I was shaking all over, and I frantically dialed the police. Once the call connected, I explained the whole situation to the police officer, my voice choked with tears, hoping against hope that they would be able to help. However, the police officer's response sent a chill down my spine. In this situation, all we can really do is ask the person who posted the video to take it down. From a legal standpoint, there aren't currently any other enforcement measures available. I thought the matter would blow over, but to everyone's surprise, those self-righteous netizens only went even further. They started digging up my personal information, and before long, my workplace and home address were exposed. Even more outrageous is that some people have been spreading exaggerated rumors online, claiming she took $1,000,000 from the child's mother just to agree to take care of the child. But now she's dumped the child in an orphanage without spending a single penny. The rumor just keeps getting wilder and wilder. I went to the bank and printed out a detailed transaction history. Every single transaction was clearly listed, which is sufficient proof that I never took any money from Su Wenwen. After that, I took a photo of the bill, wrote a long post explaining the whole story including my current financial situation, my health, and my willingness to help with my child's future education, and posted it all online. Some netizens have started to take my side, voicing their support in the comments section. Everyone, calm down. Looking at the bill, it's clear she wasn't charged. She has her own difficulties. After all, you can't just accuse someone based on a single video. She's already being very conscientious by helping the child with their studies. There are also some netizens who just won't let go of my decision to remain child-free. So what if I don't have my own kids and adopt two instead? How could you be so heartless? Choosing not to have kids is just selfish. If you can afford to send your child to school, you can afford to adopt. Don't make excuses. To address those who still doubt me, and to document this special experience, I've filmed every visit I've made to the orphanage to see the children and provide material assistance, and I've compiled these into photo essays that I've posted online, to escape their endless harassment and prevent them from setting their sights on our house. My husband and I discussed the matter and decided to turn the tables on them. We found relatives whom my husband trusted and solemnly handed the house over to them. Once the formalities were taken care of, we began to casually drop hints about the bad news among our neighbors and even within the circles our children might come into contact with a worried look on my face. I told everyone I met, my husband's business ran into serious trouble, and he's up to his ears in debt. We had no choice but to sell our house to pay off the debt. Now we're deeply in debt and struggling to make ends meet. Even when life got tough, I still told everyone, although times are hard, I'll do my best to help those two children after all. They're in a tough spot too. I thought that if I played my trump card revealing my massive debt, these two would back down. But they turned out to be far more stubborn than I expected. Faced with the desperate situation my husband and I had created, not only did they not back down in the slightest, but they became even more determined to stay with us, vowing not to give up until they achieved their goal. The anxious voice of a staff member from the orphanage came through the receiver. "Oh no. 2 children have run away." My heart sank. As soon as I came downstairs, I saw 2 children sitting on the floor, crying their hearts out. As soon as she saw me, the girls started crying even harder, crying and shouting at the same time. "Aunt Lynn, I don't want to go back to the orphanage. Please, have mercy on my brother and me. For the sake of my mother, who saved your life back then, I beg you." Such a little child actually made a move as if she were going to bang her head against the wall, which scared me so much that I rushed over and hugged her. Neighbors heard the commotion and gathered around, pointing and whispering about us. "What's wrong with this kid? He's crying and making a scene right at their doorstep." Exactly. It hasn't been easy for her. First there was all that fuss about her adopting a child. And now this. He's got 2 hands and 2 feet. How can he not afford to raise 2 children? The children's mother is the one who saved his life. Yet he shows no gratitude at all. I had no choice but to let the 2 children stay the night. To my surprise, the next day, the media actually came to my door to interview me. In less than half a day, I was trending on Weibo. People love to see stories that embody truth, goodness, and beauty. No one cared at all whether I really wanted to adopt these 2 children. No one blamed the child's immediate family. They were all staring at me, showering me with praise. And I returned the favor with kindness. The veteran police officer reassured me. "Since things have come to this, we'll just have to take it one step at a time. Don't worry too much for now after all. They're still just kids." Gritting my teeth, I had no choice but to bite the bullet and take on this heavy burden. The 2 children are in a special situation, and the neighborhood office took pity on them. Understanding that my husband and I are both ordinary working-class people, a nearby private elementary school offered them free tuition to generate buzz and promote a positive image. I no longer have to pay for tuition. And they're not as generous with my allowance as they used to be. If I had my way, I wouldn't give these 2 ungrateful wretches a single penny. To force us into submission, they began spreading rumors throughout the neighborhood, claiming that we had callously abandoned them and were trying to drive out the children of our saviors. Suddenly, the neighbors looked at us with eyes full of reproach and suspicion. Some busybodies have even taken to the internet to sensationalize the story, in an attempt to stir up a new wave of public controversy. We were so fed up with the constant harassment that my husband and I finally took the plunge and rented a rundown, cramped apartment. The room was dim and damp, with large patches of plaster peeling from the walls, giving off a musty odor. We set up a bunk bed for the 2 kids. The slats were rock hard, and there wasn't even a decent mattress. Since then, my husband and I have completely changed our attitude toward them. In the past, we used to worry about their studies, helping them with their homework and checking their assignments, but now, we don't want to waste a single ounce of energy on that anymore. Regardless of how they perform in school, whether they're improving or falling behind, we turn a blind eye. They're just ungrateful ingrates anyway, no matter how hard I try. It's a waste of time. We only provide them with the bare necessities, preparing simple meals each day, and no longer go to the trouble of carefully balancing their nutrition as we used to. I also bought the cheapest clothes I could find, no longer caring about their disapproving glances. We turned a deaf ear to their crying, accusations, and all sorts of unreasonable demands. My actions set off a chain reaction. There are people online claiming that I secretly abuse my children and don't give them any pocket money. The onlookers keep pointing fingers at me. I put together a detailed PowerPoint presentation showing the monthly expenses for my child's food, drink, and daily necessities. Raising a child isn't that easy. After seeing it, netizens couldn't stop praising me. The monthly cost of meals here is higher than what I pay for my own child, but it's still pretty good. Su Wonwon couldn't get a single benefit from her husband or children, so she finally started to panic. I noticed her disguising herself time and again and sneaking after 2 small children into a dilapidated alley. "I'll pretend I don't know anything," Children's smartwatches are equipped with tracking devices and recording capabilities. All of this is evident. That could ruin her reputation in the future. A semester has passed, and Su Wonwon probably couldn't hold back any longer. Our family has gained a lot of online attention for adopting 2 children. And we've also made a decent amount of money through social media, according to my private investigator's report. Su Wonwon doesn't seem to be doing very well. She could actually put up with living on the run. But I overlooked one thing. Su Wonwon hasn't been able to get anything out of it. So he's become desperate. Late at night, a little girl stood at the door, her clothes disheveled and her hair a mess, sobbing, with a neighbor looking on in shock and anger. Before I could even react, the little girl pointed at my husband and cried out, "He's bullying me. He's not human." When the neighbors heard the news, they were in an uproar, and everyone shot him disapproving glances. My husband turned pale at the sudden accusation. His lips trembled, and he was speechless for a long moment. I was frantic with worry and rushed forward, trying to defend my husband. "Don't listen to her nonsense, this is definitely a slander." But the little girl cried even louder. Though her story was full of holes, it still managed to sway quite a few people. The neighbors were buzzing with gossip, and some began to accuse us, saying that while we seemed friendly on the surface, we were actually capable of doing such a thing behind their backs. As expected, my husband was taken away by the police, just like in my previous life, without any confirmation. Netizens launched a barrage of personal attacks against my husband and me. He looks like a decent guy, but to do something like that to a little girl's nothing but a psychopath. That couple is a bunch of good-for-nothings. They didn't care about their kid before. And who knows what kind of trouble they're up to now. That woman is absolutely heartless. She might have adopted the child just to curry favor with her husband. I calmly retrieved the surveillance footage and carefully reviewed every second of it from the moment the little girl arrived at my house. Sure enough, the video clearly shows that all of the little girl's extreme behavior was staged by her. Without hesitation, I posted the surveillance footage online. And the truth came to light immediately. Public opinion suddenly shifted. That little girl is so scary, how could she do something like that? Thank goodness for the surveillance footage. Otherwise, that couple would have been completely wrongly accused. No way. How come kids these days are so mature so early? Don't go around saying that children are kind and innocent, just think about what you were like when you were little. I can't even imagine what would happen if people really misunderstood this. That man would never be able to clear his name. Since the 2 children were quite young, the police ultimately limited their punishment to a stern talking to and had them write a self-criticism. The matter was left unresolved. The 2 children can't stay here any longer either. Better to get it over with than to let things drag on. Su Wonwon felt that her chance had come. She rushed to the scene, wailing uncontrollably, collapsed to the ground, and cried out, "Lin Yen, you bastard. I entrusted my child to you, and this is how you treat her. Don't you have a shred of conscience left?" Su Wonwon also called in the media and tearfully recounted her tragic ordeal on camera, fabricating all sorts of details and claiming that my husband had been abusing our child for a long time and that we had neglected the child. I stared at her coldly. She finally deigned to come out, faced with my piercing gaze. She looked flustered for a moment, but he soon started making a fuss. The police were shocked as well. How could a dead person suddenly reappear? Su Wonwon said that, given she suffers from depression, it is only natural for someone to feel so desperate as to consider taking their own life. The police officer looked at her in disbelief. But there was nothing he could do about Su Wonwon. I have provided all the surveillance video and audio recordings. Su Wonwon could only grit her teeth as she left the police station. She looked at me in disbelief. "Lin Yen, why did you install security cameras in your home? Did you know about this all along?" Her expression gradually turned panicked. I gave a half smile. "For the safety of your husband and children. Isn't it perfectly normal to install security cameras at home?" Thanks to this, my social media following has reached a whole new level. There was no way Su Wonwon would accept that everything he had been planning for so long would just fizzle out like that. She started posting short articles on social media to stir up public sentiment. Before long, We were inundated with abuse, and some people even organized offline protests demanding severe punishment for my husband, leaving our family in a desperate situation. But the evidence is clear. My husband didn't do anything wrong. And all she got was a barrage of insults. Some people have accused her of giving birth to a child she didn't raise, saying she is unfit to be a mother. This is terrifying. Could this woman be faking her death on purpose? Depression. I've never seen anyone with depression who's so full of energy when they're lashing out at people online. Let's just leave. This woman's motives are way too obvious, just trying to stage an accident to get money. I immediately filed a private report against Su Wenwen for spreading malice, rumors and defamation, and the police promptly launched an investigation. As the investigation progressed, Su Wenwen's various misdeeds gradually came to light. The lies she had so carefully crafted crumbled in the face of irrefutable evidence. Everyone could clearly see her ugly true colors as she tried to gain an advantage by framing us. Police uncovered a large amount of evidence at Su Wenwen's residence, including records of her collusion with certain unscrupulous media outlets, as well as scripts she had carefully prepared to fabricate lies. At the funeral home, Su Wenwen was responsible for forging documents such as medical records and suicide notes to make the fake death appear more realistic and credible. The funeral home owner, taking advantage of his position, issued false cremation certificates without proper post-mortem examinations or the consent of the families, thereby helping these individuals successfully fraudulently obtain insurance payouts. Once the scheme was successful, they split the insurance payout with the fraudster. They forged cremation certificates, deceived the families of the deceased, and made a fortune in the process. This incident constitutes a serious violation of funeral regulations and ethical standards, and amounts to insurance fraud. The moment Su Wenwen was taken away by the police, her eyes were filled with fear and despair. The two children were also sent to an orphanage by the local government. This matter has finally come to a close. A year later, my husband and I welcomed a new life into our family. In the future, I'm definitely going to tell my kids to be careful about who they befriend and never let their sense of self-sacrifice run wild. That's the end of the story. Thank you all for reading. Please subscribe, like, share, and leave a comment. Thank you.